as we begin, the first thing we're going to talk about with organic compound structure is kind of why are we learning this? Like, what is the thing that we're going to be learning here? And in Organic 1, we're going to be focused on the chemistry of carbon structures. Carbon is kind of unique in that because of the number of valence electrons it has and kind of where it's situated on the periodic table, carbon can make a lot of bonds to a lot of different neighboring atoms. And so carbon becomes this kind of ideal base atom to connect a whole bunch of things to it. And so the things that carbon can do is, one, carbon ends up being pretty stable and unreactive. And unreactive is maybe not quite the correct term, but rather instead of saying unreactive, we say it's predictably reactive. It's only under very particular circumstances that we can make carbon react. And so if we know that, then we can watch out for when that occurs and do that kind of stuff. But it's also capable of making very complex structures because you can connect, because it only has 4 valence electrons, it can make 4 different bonds to 4 different groups. And so we can connect a lot of things to carbon and make complex structures. And so this combination of being able to make complex structures, but also have this kind of predictable reactivity, makes it a very interesting area of chemistry to talk about, and one that has so many reactions and so many different types of ways of looking at reaction that it ends up being a full, at least a full year's course, or if you're like me, you end up devoting your entire life to it. But in order to understand these carbon structures, these complex structures, and how they react and all of that kind of stuff, the main question we're going to ask is this question right up here, right? Where are the electrons? And so throughout this course, we're going to constantly be referring to where are our electrons? And so every time that we draw an organic structure, the question that we're trying to answer when we analyze, when we draw, when we interpret an organic structure, the information that that organic structure is giving us, no matter how complex, is where those electrons are. So organic structure tells us the location of electrons. And the good news is that it's a pretty simple and straightforward. There's only a few different locations that electrons can be. We don't have a lot of orbitals for those electrons to inhabit, and they can only combine in certain ways. Okay? So whenever we look at electrons, whenever we look at organic structure, we're kind of answering maybe 3 questions. One, where are the electrons? Right? Secondly, where can they move to? If the electrons can move, where can they move? And lastly, what happens when they do, right? What is the outcome of that electron movement? So we're going to spend this first bit of the class focused on this question. Where are the electrons? Right? That is the essential question of organic compound structure, and that's what this first unit is really going to focus on.